Hey y'all, welcome to the Moving with Millennials podcast with your favorite millennial realtors.
We are 4 top producing agents in the DFW area, and we are ready to share the good, bad, and the real life of real estate.
Whether you're thinking about getting into real estate, already an agent, or just curious about what your agent really does, join us.
Tune in every Wednesday to see what it's really like to be on this side of the transaction.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us again on Moving with Millennials. Today we're going to talk about buyers once you're under contract. Now what? We're going to talk about the process, and we're also going to talk about for agents, kind of like what we do to kind of manage the process, I would say.
Yeah.
So everyone ready to kind of like jump into today's topic?
Yeah.
Sweet.
So many moving parts to this topic, and so many people involved in like steps. So how do we want to start?
I think we can all agree there are some like basic steps that all 4 of us and every agent has to take, and you do. But I think it's also important. We're going to talk about like some extra things maybe we do just to make the experience a little bit better, because that's our job as real estate agents, to help our clients out.
I kind of break it down for my clients in like 3 stages. So we have like the option period, which we'll kind of talk about what that means. Then we've got then after that, we typically have a few more days for financing period. And then we're waiting for that clear to close.
The appraisal.
So why don't we like start at the beginning? It might be a little detailed, but I feel like that's what they want. You are under contract, your agent, or you're an agent, and you just text your client and said, hey, congrats, we're under contract. Here's the next steps. What's the next thing you're going to do?
Schedule the inspection. But that's the best news to deliver in this market is like we're under contract. It's one of my favorite.
We beat 43 other offers.
5th time's the charm. It's usually
Right.
like a handful of tries. But yeah, now that I have an assistant, my TC used to send out that initial email like I would text like, hey, we're under contract, yay, exciting. And then I'd send over, or my TC at the time would send over next steps. But the first thing I'd say is schedule the inspection.
The first thing I do is send an email. Congratulations, we're under contract.
Yeah.
This is the option period deadline. This is your financing deadline. And I would CC the title company and the lender and stuff on that. And then after that.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. You have to send it to the title company first. And
I
the lender.
have a critical dates form, basically.
Yeah.
So, like, for my buyers, it'll say, like, your earnest and option money are due by this date to this person, and I will, get that to you via email, like, whether or not they're going to pay electronically or however. And then it'll have, like, when option period is up, when you need to be approved for financing by, like all those different deadlines. And then it also gives information like, here is the person from the title company that will be contacting you.
Right.
Like those kinds of things. And so that way they just kind of know, it's like it's really easy for them to know kind of what's going to be happening over the next 30-ish days.
Yeah. And all those dates are in my calendar and the TC or assistant, and then the buyer's calendar, so they know exactly where we're at.
I'm like Maggie. I have the email template, so like every week they have a template. I live by those email templates, and it's the first thing. It talks about inspection. Here's who I recommend if you want to use them. Get that scheduled. Jake brought up the critical dates. I think pointing those out to your clients. When does option end? What time does option end?
Right.
Reminding them, because even though you probably sat down with your client or you sat down with your agent and went over the home buying process at the time, you still don't. It just
it goes. You need been a minute since
someone who's there. every step. And then the other thing we have to worry about is option and earnest money. So getting those 2 checks or 1 check.
1 check now.
To make sure, that the title company gets those on time, because there are deadlines you have to meet in there. So make sure that that's happening as well. So it's like kind of the first initial, and then like Brandie said, make sure title and the lender have copies of the contract.
And all necessary addendum. I also prefer to like work with title companies that will collect earnest and option electronically. It's like one of the things I check for.
100%.
I'm like, if I...
And now, some will come pick them up from your client. I just recently had that, which was so nice. There's a situation that they were having tech issues with the Zocam app, which is like an electronic
way to process it.
Way to send the money, and we were up against that 5 p.m. deadline where it's due. The earnest and option fee are always due within 3 days of going under contract and at 5 p.m. And so we were right up against the clock, and the title company came and collected it, which was really nice.
Heard it. Yep.
That's the word.
So kind of let's talk about like that first little block of time is the option period. So let's talk about like important things to know or do from the buyer side. Let's like say like agent side, maybe for like later, we can kind of split it up. So like for the buyer's side, like what is important for getting done during the option period? And what is option period? Maybe someone explain that. Like legally, what does the option period allow you to do?
Mm-hmm.
So your option period is legally that time. The best way, well, the simplest way to explain it to a buyer is this time period that you're kind of seeing if you're for sure going to move forward on the property. So you can back out during the option period for any reason. I tell buyers, like, even if you just change your mind, whatever.
Buyer's remorse.
You have buyer's remorse. This is your time period. It's the easiest time for an agent to get you out of the contract and get you your earnest money back. Now you will lose that option money, but that's why it's usually not as much.
Right.
So the option period is for you to do inspections, make sure that you, there's nothing major wrong, or if there is, negotiating that with the seller to get it repaired and or get seller concessions where they pay towards your closing costs. So it's really just assuring that you're going to move forward on the contract.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember the brokerage term that I remember when I was taking a broker class, like they actually, it's like your option to purchase kind of thing is what you have the option to purchase, but you are still deciding whether you're going to purchase it or not.
And Texas is unique that way. Like not very many states have an option type period.
Yeah. Thank the Lord for option periods, because without them, like I've had buyers walk and I'm like, for very good reason.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I mean, it's so important. And I always call it like your grace period. This is when you have all your inspections done. You could back out for any reason.
Yep.
If you know that you're going to have any work done to the property, it's your time to have like a general contractors or whatever companies you need to go out and do bids on it. Like even if you're not negotiating those things, but you know, like after we close, we're going to want to do X, Y, and Z things. It's a good time to go ahead and have those bids done, so you know if it's going to be about what you thought or if it's way more expensive. That's a good time to get those done as well.
Yeah. Sure. I think this is great that Texas does this, because especially in this market with how quickly you have to make a decision sometimes to make an offer on a property. You don't have time to think about all that. So it's like, we got to get under contract. There's multiple offers. Get under contract. And at that point is when we'll do our due diligence.
So just briefly, like that's something that's negotiated right now, is like how short you can make your option period to get everything done. Because of course, sellers, when they have 42 offers, they want that option period to be as short as possible. Would you ever recommend, let's go down, just give your one-word answer. Would you ever recommend that your buyer client completely waive their option period? Brandie?
No.
Nope.
Maggie?
No.
I wouldn't either. So, and I think we probably have all seen it. I have it, like I've now had it like on listings now twice where I've had people waive theirs completely. I would never, ever, ever recommend that for a client. So I just think it's really, I mean, your one way to back out and get your earnest money back. And it's also like your one time to back out, where like even if you want to back out, like, I mean, a seller could realistically sue you to move forward. Yeah. That, like, other parts of the contract. I mean, like, what is it? Performance. They could sue you for performance. So it's like, it's really just like the only way to get out of the contract easily. Yeah.
And we'll talk about buyer outs on another episode. But I've been on the seller side several times where the buyer has waived the option period, which it doesn't get much better than that on the seller side, because it's just great. I mean, you know that there's other ways to back out, but I have been on the buyer side where they were adamant about waiving the option period. Told them multiple times, verbally, via text, email. Just I did my job at advising, but I also knew in the back of my head we did have a financing contingency. We could have, we had other ways out. We just couldn't back out during that option period.
Right, and I think
it's definitely as
long as you're advising your client on what the risks are, because they certainly can, and because it's their transaction. We are not a party to the transaction. This is their transaction. But the other thing is if you have a good listing agent, I, on the listing side, almost don't like to see 0 days for an option period, because I know they can back out for other reasons. So because they have 0 days on an option period doesn't mean they can't do an inspection. They can still get an inspection at any time. The way the contract reads is you have to let them into that house for inspections and everything else, whether they have an option period or not. But there's other ways they can back out of the contract. I rather know that there's a time period when, if they're going to change their mind, it's past. And so I prefer there to still be some sort of option period to make it just more of a less than quick decision kind of.
I think it depends, because if they've waived option and they're also waiving the right for appraisal to cancel due to appraisal. So if there's no financing approval and no appraisal.
And if there's HOA, there's so many different.
But HOA, they would have to give like specific reasoning for. I mean, it's like, it's still, I mean, it's like, and you know, again, you can write that HOA 3 days. It's like, you know, it can negotiate that to a short period too. So it's like, once you receive it, like having a 3-day grace period for them is still 3 days, or whatever you negotiate it to cancel with an HOA.
Well, reasons. No, HOA, the way that reads is they have X amount of days to get the thing, but then they still have 3 days after receiving it.
So they only have a 3-day grace period once they receive it.
Right.
So it's like, that is
But
super
if they're sitting there
short.
waiting, I've backed out due to HOA before. It was simple.
Yeah.
And you can. But it's just one of those things. Yeah. It makes me feel better on the listing side to know that they're not going to try to sneak something in there last minute because they have their fair option period.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's just how, and it's all subjective. And I think it's all about how the agent, I think real estate and how transactions get handled or accepted or anything is all about the buyer agent and listing agent and how they advise their clients.
Yes.
Correct.
Because I could advise you completely different and it could be a completely different transaction. So it's just
100%.
interesting how that works.
All right, so you've decided to move forward the house, you know, like get through option period.
What do you do? Should we tell them what they do in option period?
Yeah, we just did
the inspections.
So all that, and then if there's anything, like she mentioned, negotiate repairs or concessions, then you get that done. So once all that's completed and you're moving out of option period, for a majority of transactions that are financed, then you have additional time after that you're going through what's called your buyer financing approval period. So I think I typically write in 14 days.
Yeah.
Are y'all still
Yes.
writing
I
14?
do 12
14.
I'd say in the lowest, well, I'd say my average is like 12 to 14, but if I want to be really...
But keep in mind, it's not the time period they have to get conditional approval. It's just the time period they have to back out due to conditional approval. So they could still go after the 10 days and be approved. It's really something you want to just talk to the lender about and communicate. Like, how long do you really need to feel good about it?
Yeah.
So
you've got that period. That's hopefully within that time period, and then also is like when appraisal gets done. So I think appraisals were taking so long for a little while.
Yes.
I think now they seem like they are getting better to me at least.
It is.
I haven't had one in a long time where we're like waiting on the appraisal.
Yeah. No,
Most of them are ordered right away.
Yeah. Most lenders now know they have to.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think that's something too, like as a buyer, you should know that, like whether or not your lender is going to order that appraisal right away. Some lenders used to, at least, and some probably still do, they prefer to wait until you're out of option period to order it.
It's
It's
too
like,
late
hey,
now.
we're done now. So now, like, you need to make sure that, like, between agent, yourself, and your lender, that you've communicated what the expectation for when that appraisal is going to be ordered.
Yeah.
Because you could end up backing out or whatever, and that appraisal's already been ordered, you're still going to pay for it.
Yeah, it just depends on the lender.
Yeah.
So again, I kind of work on template form to where like the next email that goes out as soon as we go through option is all about reminding them to get the homeowner's insurance quoted out,
Correct.
to order a home warranty if they're wanting to get a home warranty. So we recommend some things there. And then like Jake said, we really talk about make sure you're getting documents to the lender. This is really the lender's job to step up and make sure they're now doing their thing on their timeline.
Yeah.
And that appraisal's coming up.
Yeah,
So
I think as an agent, sorry, I just totally cut you off. Par for the course for today. I think as an agent, like we do a lot of work through option, and then like we kind of step back like a half step and let like the lender kind of like work their magic, do their job for like appraisal, financing, all that, while we're still advising, like you said, get homeowners insurance quotes, like those, get home warranty if you're going to look into that. Like we still advise on those things, but really the meat of the transaction at that point is on the lender's plate.
Right.
And title.
You have to make sure that title is open and they're starting to pull their docs. Make sure if there's a new survey needing to be purchased, it's getting purchased. So there's little pieces there to also check in on, but it is more the buyer or the lender and the title company
doing
doing
those actions.
We're just making sure they're staying on top of it.
It's more of like a whirlwind, like the first, like during your contract through option period, and then it kind of not slows down, but not like that we're like not working, like you said, but like it just it's not like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, it's not as frantic or hectic, I feel like.
Yeah.
Well, you're kind of more on other people's timelines,
right?
Like at that point, like when is title going to be done with this? The lender, the appraiser, we're just checking in to make sure things aren't forgotten.
Right.
And really during that time, I mean, it's a great time for you to be talking to your buyer and saying, is there anything else, you have questions about, or I can be helping you with? Some they all of a sudden have questions about, things that they didn't ask before.
Yeah.
So I send out like my template, whatever. It's kind of like one at the beginning. It's a checklist forever. So it has like my preferred inspectors, preferred home warranty companies. But then also once you've made it out of option is like when I talk about like, moving company recommendations. Are you packing? Are you like, that's also when I talk to them about like, if they own a home, like shutting off your utilities here, when you'll need to get your new utilities turned on. It's like those kinds of like, they're like little kind of like random tasks that all get pulled into like that section of the transaction, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, I think I wait because everyone's different. And again, it feels like we're all doing the same steps, but in like what order?
Mm-hmm.
Well, same order, but what point in the transaction? I break mine up. So I might break mine up on a weekly. So transactions usually about 4 weeks. Let's just say give or take. First email is all about the inspection, things like that when you go into contract. Second is always the home warranty and insurance. And then my third email is usually like a check-in email, like, hey, I don't have anything new for you this week. I'm just letting you know here's where we are on the appraisal, things like that. And then my last email is usually the week before closing, and that's when I talk about utility setup, movers, let's schedule your closing, that kind of thing. So that's how my brain works with the transaction.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, okay, so then once they've ordered their home warranty, once they've ordered their insurance is set, appraisal came back, what's kind of the next step after the appraisal?
You're just waiting for that magic 3 words, clear to close.
Those are the best words. Yeah, and back to the appraisal, we want it to make value, but if it doesn't, that's when you have to renegotiate the price. So there's 3 points of negotiating. It's right before you go under contract, during the option period, and then appraisal. But we always cross our fingers that it's going to appraise. So
and we all also do. Like, we either make sure one agent, either the listing or the buyer's agent, is doing some sort of prep and some sort of packet for the appraiser.
100%. Yeah,
absolutely.
Super important.
Yeah, I think then again, going back to like what you were saying, Jake, is like it's kind of on the lender at this point to make sure that because a lender's going to, not only did they already run your credit, ask for check stubs, bank statements, whatever they needed at the beginning of your pre-qualification, but now they're going to probably ask for all of that again because they want to make sure nothing has changed by the time you got pre-qualified 3 months ago to that day. They're also going to call your employer, make sure you actually work at the job you say you work at and make the income you make. So there's things that they're verifying right before to get that clear to close.
It's going to be really repetitive too. Like Mariana said, it's going to be stuff that you've already sent them or signed.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm super excited to move, and I think like having a new SUV or a new truck would be really helpful. Should I go buy a new car before closing?
No. If I'm not your agent, yes. I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
If my client lost out, no.
No.
No. You do not want to make changes.
Never.
No large purchases.
That.
Yeah, that's
no. Don't put anything extra on credit. So it's not even the time to go buy new furniture for your place yet.
Yes.
Do not make those large or just any purchases that are going to affect your credit, because that affects your debt to income ratio, and that is a very vital number through your transaction.
Yeah.
Well, I've even heard that they're calling the day of close to make sure that you still have your job, that you're
they do.
They do.
They
on
have
the day of closing, and it's like that was a COVID thing that they started.
Who do
doing.
they call for realtors? Do they call like our office? Or do they call me? I mean, I'm a small business owner.
No, you're
Who do they call for
technically
yours?
self-employed.
What do you mean?
They don't call it.
They call.
You're self-employed. When you're 1099, they're going off your 1099 taxes, not your current employment.
So they don't like verify.
Well, no, they have you do a P&L. So they'll have you do a P&L for the current year. So like if you buy in the middle of the year, they'll want to see where you're at, like for the year to date. But you're your own boss.
Did you? What'd you do?
We used Chris's income because I wasn't 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Mm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So they didn't need a P&L and stuff from you. Yeah. Which, I mean, they would have if they used yours as well.
Okay, so I can't go purchase a big SUV or truck.
No.
I can't go buy all my new furniture or even a refrigerator. I know some people talk about that. Like, it's just best not to. I mean, if there's like a purchase like that you feel like you really need to make, you can talk to your lender about it and see their thoughts, because it may be okay and it may not be. But definitely no cars, no campers, nothing like that. God, no.
No.
And there's like nothing worse as an agent to find out that your client did that.
Yeah.
I had a client that purchased like a ton of furniture. And so it was like a, how are we going to fix this kind of issue?
Yeah. Return it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So.
Yeah, you don't want to change jobs, become self-employed in between. Definitely the car. I tell people even don't buy furniture because a lot of people, like Nebraska Furniture Mart, offers like a credit card.
Yes.
They'll open up the new credit card that changes your debt to income, or they'll use the money that they have set aside for closing. And because you also, not only do you need the amount of money for closing to like close on it, even when you get your closing costs, they require that you have a reserve in your bank account, because they don't want you to deplete your savings or your bank account and then realize you can't actually make the first 2 payments of your mortgage because
Right.
now you've gone through your whole savings. So they do require that there be a cushion or amount in your account after closing too. So
Definitely.
don't go spending all the money.
Yeah, we can make that a whole topic.
Oh yeah. What to do, what not to do.
Yeah.
Yes. So what else is happening with obtaining the mortgage financing? So we talked about homeowners insurance, the appraisal survey. They're going to do that credit check, and then it goes through underwriting. So underwriting.
It's like the black hole of the transaction.
Yeah.
What I mean by that
Underwriters.
is like a lot of times, like if you ask a lender for an update, they're like, "Oh, it's an underwriting." It's like, "Oh, well,
Yeah.
I need more descriptors than that."
Yeah.
You know, it's like, is the underwriter looking at it right now, or you know,
There
like
can
what does
be
that mean?
so many things.
It's very vague.
It's very vague. But like I recently had one, the underwriter needed, okay, they did a deposit on their bank and it was like XYZ, but it was 3 different checks. So they needed each check, like the bank statement only had the deposit of the total, but they needed, because it was
3
just
checks.
random. It
Yeah.
didn't show like what. So it's just little things like,
Yeah. They ask for like, they'll sometimes ask you to like provide like letters. Like they'll say, can you provide a letter stating why you put $2,000 extra in your bank account? You're
Yeah.
like, well, it's Christmas time and I got money for Christmas. Like they need explanations on why things are off. So
yeah.
the way you think about it, I get a lot of pushback sometimes, or not me personally, but I get buyers who are like, oh, why do I have to do all this? And I'm like, think about it. They're about to give you a lot of money. They just want
Yeah.
to make sure that you're going to pay it back. Wonder why money is being put into places. Is it legal? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of
So
what
I'm
else.
about to laugh.
What?
You have worked with an agent that I'm friends with.
Uh-huh.
He had a client that had to
Oh,
explain his
Oh,
deposits from OnlyFans.
From only what?
OnlyFans. Like the,
Only what?
Do you know what that is?
I
Only
would've died.
what?
OnlyFans.
Fans?
Yes.
No.
Oh.
Oh.
Maggie-
Well, tune in on a later date where Maggie finds out what that
Like
is.
strippers?
Okay, I will explain to you after.
Fans?
I will explain
We'll
to you
talk about it
after.
after what it
But
is.
it is something that you would probably
an online
not want to
service.
explain to a lender, like where that money was coming
So
from.
have to
But
do-
his client, I will.
We will
No
talk
more
to you about it
questions.
later.
Questions
Are we
are
gonna have to
closed.
edit this out?
No.
No, I think anyone that listens to it's a very millennial thing.
Yeah.
And it's a
It's
self-employment.
good that you don't know.
It is
Yeah,
self-employment. I'm glad that I was not the only one that knew what it was.
Yeah.
So
okay.
yes, but yes, he had a client that had to explain all of his OnlyFans
Yeah.
deposits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any funny. Yeah, that would be
I
so
love
funny.
him.
Like you have to put
Yes.
it like in an explanation on
Uh,
why you're making a side income. It's
Yeah.
inconsistent.
It was his sole income. I won't tell you how much money he
Oh.
made from it.
Oh, they make a lot of
Mind-blown.
money.
I'm like, now I want to
Mind
know.
blown.
Like, I want to
Yeah.
pause it so y'all can
Yeah.
tell me.
No pausing.
Yeah.
Maggie's gonna be so quiet the rest of the time she's gonna think
I'm
about
like
it.
trying,
I
yeah.
will tell you it has nothing to do with fans, ceiling
Yeah,
fans.
no, I know that. I can pick that one up.
I feel like this is gonna be the soundbite for this
Basically,
episode.
it's things that only fans can put their eyes on.
Only fans?
Oh my
Okay,
god.
okay. No, Maggie.
It's a subscription service.
Yes.
I'm
Anywho, so enough about that. Let's
I'm
talk
really gonna
about.
Let him pause it.
No.
So on top of so once you get through underwriting, really the process, yeah, it is a lot right at the very end sometimes. But once you get that clear to close and they give you your final amount, which by the way, you're not going to get that final amount right away. You'll actually get an initial closing disclosure, which says, here's kind of what, here's the estimated amount that you're going to have to bring to closing. That's never the amount you're going to bring. Title and the lender are still going back and forth during this time to balance out figures. And then,
Fees. It's usually fees. And
Yeah,
whatnot, but
numbers.
Yeah.
and then I always request a copy of it
Uh-huh.
to make sure that the figures on there and the fees on there also reflect the contract, that they didn't miss, because I've had clients that they miss, or I've had title companies miss like who pays for the new survey, and they showed that my buyer was buying one. I said, no, the seller's supposed to pay for this per the contract. So it's like we're making sure that they're also putting the correct
And like
numbers.
seller credits have been
Yeah.
missed.
Yeah.
There's another
I
big
also
one.
double check taxes to make sure that like
Yeah.
it seems like they were like calculated in like a proportionate way of like
Mhm.
for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another one I look at because
I
sometimes that's
had
not done correctly.
Yeah, I had an HOA issue not too long ago. Like they had the buyer paying that. I don't
Yeah.
even remember.
So there's all
But-
kinds of things. So you want to make sure as a buyer that your agent does get a copy and does review it for you.
Yeah.
Is the-
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so important.
And it's good for us to have for later on. Like one of my clients called me the other day because she was being charged double
Oh, yeah,
for
we talked about
HOA. So it's good for us just to have to be able to pull up and help you long term.
Yep, for sure.
So then once you get that clear to close, you set your closing, you go and sign your name 400,000 times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you take a cute picture with like your realtor because that's something we always expect and want.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we didn't talk about a final walkthrough.
Oh yeah.
So you
Rewind.
should, and hopefully you do. Your agent is providing you with a final walkthrough. Even if there's no repairs that were done, nothing's changed. Even if the sellers don't even live in the house, I always recommend that you do a final walkthrough. I even do them for my out-of-state clients, like that aren't going to be there. I'm like, nope, I'm going to go through. I'll do a quick video, FaceTime, whatever with you. Because that's your time to make sure right before you go to sign, to purchase everything, that nothing's changed. There's no new issues. I've had some issues that come up right before last minute.
God, you had a ceiling that fell through.
Yes, we had a ceiling fall through, and that was not pretty. So we had to get that fixed before closing and delay closing a little. So there's things you have to do.
Yeah.
This house was vacant, all the things. So.
Oh my gosh, that was bad.
I totally, because of COVID right now, just like,
it's
I was
a
going to
thing.
say, oh my gosh.
And I'm over here, my pregnancy brain's like.
Final walkthrough.
Things that have happened. Oh, you had a flooring issue, right? A leak.
Yeah, it wasn't like an issue. I was going to comment on
even a lease back?
No. On the listing side, if you're a listing agent, do you require the buyer's agent to fill out the final walkthrough form?
Not usually, but you told me that, and I recently was on the buyer side, and she had us sign that, and I was like, I know someone who does that.
Yeah. It makes you straighten your back up a little bit.
Yeah.
You're like, oh.
Ever since you said that, I'm going to do it every time now.
I do.
Because it's so important to protect yourself.
So you only do it on the seller side, not the buyer side?
Oh, yeah. If I'm on the buyer side, I don't want my buyers. It's not like if the listing agent's not going to require it, then I'm like.
But you don't have them sign it to kind of release you of any liabilities in the future?
No, I feel like it's more so it's like, I don't. I only require it on the listing. As a listing agent, I require the buyers to go ahead and sign it.
Gotcha. I do have a little checklist that we go through and we check things, make sure things are still kind of working.
So at the final walkthrough, you're going to make sure that all repairs were completed if there were any that were negotiated. That's the main thing. And then you just want to make sure that the condition of everything else has stayed static and has been the same from your initial walkthrough.
Or they haven't taken any, say if you were to purchase the refrigerator, they haven't taken that from the house, things like that. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's hard when there's a lease back because if there's a really long lease back, then at that point, final walkthrough is really tough because all their stuff is still in the house.
What's a lease back?
So lease back. So with Texas,
I play a viewer a lot.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. A lease back is when the seller can lease back the home from the buyer once they become the new homeowners to stay in the property. It's a temporary lease back, so you can't do more. Most lenders require no more than 90 days. Some may only allow you to do up to 60 days. So it's all based on the lender, what they...
Isn't loan type affects it too, I think. I feel like FHA. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I don't remember.
I just did a conventional one, and they wouldn't allow more than 60, but I've also done another conventional.
Yeah.
And they didn't care. The lender didn't care.
Yeah, I don't think it matters necessarily so much on the loan. I know VA for sure is not more than 60.
Right.
But
I feel like FHA has a rule too.
I think it more requires on the lender than it does the loan type at that point. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was gonna be my thing. Is once we close, you take your picture, do you get the keys that day, do you get the keys at closing?
No, not until it funds.
Funds, and even then, so funding means that both sides have signed, and then the mortgage company has to send the money to the title company, and then the title company disperses the proceeds to the seller or pays off the seller's existing loan, and then disperses they pay the agents out of that, and then the proceeds go to the seller, and then at that point, once money has moved across all those accounts, then you fund it and then you get the keys. But then again, like we said, if you have a lease back, you may or may you will not take possession of that.
Right. You'll get a copy of the key because it's your house, but you can't.
You become a landlord.
For 3 months.
Fun time.
Yes. So
okay, agent sides we talked about. We'll do this one kind of quick. We talked about some of us have email templates, and then you guys have talked about that you hand some things off to a transaction coordinator. Do you? And I use my critical dates form. Do you use anything else to try to keep yourself on track, like an app or program, anything like that, to make sure that you are saying that your client's moving through at the pace that they should be moving through?
Yes. I'm a big...
I thought you were just going to say yes. So I was I just spent 5 hours saying that one sentence.
I was waiting for her to
Yes, done. I am a huge fan of, and we've been only using it for the last year, but it's like a life changer, Trello. It's an app that you can use. I've heard of other agents using it, and I finally said, you know what, I want to get on board. It is literally like my lifeline of like checklists. So like every client, as soon as you're under contract, even before, I have some like before under contract stuff to remember to like gather like certain documents, things like that. It is a checklist that every like tiny little step is in there. And I know some agents are like, no, I can only focus on the big steps. That's fine. You can just put what's in there. I put everything in there to make sure nothing gets missed. And then like, I also have an admin that's their job. Her job is to go in and update that daily. But then I can also go in there and see like when things get done. If it's checked off, I know that it's taken care of.
So Trello provides you with the lists?
No.
No, you can have to
go in and upload
it.
everything?
Yeah.
And it's on like an app that
I'll
stays
show
on.
you what I've done.
Best way to explain it is like picture a whiteboard and you can section off into as many sections as you want to like separate the transaction into like 4 steps, 5 steps or whatever. And then like each person then has like a little card. And then on that card, then you have like all the steps for that stage. Once they complete all those, you move their little card to the next step. And once you do that, then it shows you the next little checklist that you have.
Yeah. I started
it's
using
like you move it over.
Tried to be.
With Laura, our old coach.
Oh, yeah.
And then my TC last year used it, and now my admin uses it. It's very like user friendly, and you can like move. It's like sticky notes, but like checklists. The cards are like sticky notes, but like you can expand them. And, and it's super easy to like copy and paste checklists.
Yes.
It's just really user friendly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's
for
how
sure.
I keep track too.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right. So that is your basically contract to close, like every step between contract. And there's all sorts of things that can come up. Those are like, I guess, the bare minimum of what you have to worry about. But there's things depending on the situations and all that could change what your contract looks like.
Yeah. It's never that easy, but that's the gist of it.
Right? We make it sound easy though.
Yeah.
Which not really. So. Like now that I'm thinking about it, like that's a lot.
I know. I actually, it's
so
such
much.
A compliment when people are like, you make it look easy. And I'm like, it's actually not.
I love when people say, I can never do what you do.
I know. Yeah. It's like
it takes prayers and a lot of wine.
Yeah, right. Alcohol
and systems. That's why I love the Trello, and that's really what it is. It's a system. I mean, when you think about it, there's so many moving parts, but every transaction's kind of the same. I mean, everything. There's certain things that have to happen, and in the in between, like you got to know to figure out.
It's like every transaction is kind of the same, but every transaction is also so different.
Yeah,
it's like it's that weird catch of like. You know what to expect, and you know to expect the curveball. Like, you don't know when in the transaction it's going to come.
Yeah, you're just waiting for it.
There's always something that you're like, that's going to come out of nowhere.
Honestly, I can say I probably had one transaction that was so perfect that I've
had several of those. Yeah, and you're like, what is happening?
Like, it was too perfect. Like, it freaked me out that it was.
But anytime it is going perfectly, I'm like, when is this going to happen?
What's going to happen? What's going to happen?
But
something's great. But I would say that's, our job too as agents. Like if this is obviously overwhelming as a listener and you're a buyer. Like don't worry too much about all this because that's our job is to be there step by step by step. Things are going to go wrong. Period. You're buying a big piece of property. So just
That's when it's like. I'm the filter.
Yeah.
So like nothing is going to get to you unless I decide that it's worth getting to you.
I was about to say.
So like I will fix problems a lot of times that you don't even know there's a problem because it just doesn't need to escalate to you.
Yeah.
I will only bring you a problem when it's something that I'm like, okay, here's the problem.
We're trying to figure it out. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out here's the solution I think, but like you as the client need to make this decision.
Yeah.
So
same.
Absolutely.
So important.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I think that sums it up for today.
Yes.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Talk to you later. Bye.